How did I get interested in fish or my career? That is an interesting story. I think I kind of fell into each of my little steps. I've always been interested in biology from the time I was little, wanted to be the marine biologist, loved being at the beach. Grew up a little bit more, decided physical therapy was where I was going to head, and went to a school where the biology program was kind of based towards medical students. And got a couple of years in, got a couple of chemistry classes in, and went, I don't know if this is for me. And had a professor named Dr. Bruce Saul. And he was the one ichthyology professor teaching fish. And I'd had him for zoology. And so I found myself in that typical, what do I do next moment. And a bunch of my friends were taking his ichthyology class. And they're like, come on, let's take it. We get to go on field trips. It'll be great. And I enjoyed him as a professor. So I was like, okay, we'll do this. And we got up in the North Georgia mountains, and I got in those streams, put that backpack electrofishing unit on. And by the end of the day, I remember looking at him going, you can get paid to do this? And he's like, yeah. So not to be cheesy, but I got hooked at that moment. And then went on to the Georgia Stream team after college, spent a couple of summers there, and really got interested in the dynamics of the North Mountains that were stocked with rainbow trout. And because I could tell you within 2 minutes without seeing a rainbow trout if it was stocked or not, because of the dynamics. If they weren't stocked, there were at least 10 species of fish. If they were stocked, 2, 3, and I knew which ones they were going to be. So I started getting interested in that. Well, if something's put where it doesn't belong, how does it affect everything else around it? And at that moment, decided I wanted to go to grad school, and got in touch with Dr. Tom Kwok, and he happened to have a project looking at invasive flathead catfish and needed a master's student, and so started that journey. And then that kind of led into graduated from NC State. Then I got a job as a sport fish biologist with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. And that really got me involved and interested in management of species. Spent over a decade with them, and then got to a point where kind of needed a change of scenery. And I was offered a job with a professor back at NC State, but he was actually in the aquatic plant management program. And so now I'm studying plants. It's still management of aquatic critter, it's just a little different. So my career and my interests have kind of gone all over the place, but it's been a very interesting and exciting ride, so I won't complain. Okay, so what is my educational background? I went to Augusta State University in Augusta, Georgia, and I got my Bachelor's of Science. And then I went on to NC State University to get my Master's in Fisheries and Wildlife. I currently work at NC State University, and I am an Extension Associate with the Aquatic Plant Management program. So my focus is specifically on Lake Gaston, and that's a 2,000-acre reservoir. It's right on the edge of Virginia, North Carolina, and our program has been managing the aquatic plants out at the lake since 2012 with the support of the Lake Gaston Control Council. And so they are an entity that has a funding source, government funding sources that has supported our research and our management. And Lake Gaston started out back in the 90s with the infestation of hydrilla, a very invasive plant that's quite common around the southeast at this point, and had thousands of acres of this stuff. When NC State came on to actively manage it, we were over 1,500 acres in 2012, and we've currently got it down to 160. So for that, we've really tuned into our management skills of using biological control with grass carp, herbicide controls, and yearly monitoring. And so that's a big part of it. But recently, with hydrilla going down, we've had an infestation of a noxious cyanobacteria called Lyngbya. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on now, is trying to figure out how to manage this stuff. It's like wet horsehair. and it smells, it's aesthetically awful, it's ecologically awful. And so, but there's not a tuned in management strategy for it yet. And so that's what's been really cool. I've only been here 2 years, wasn't a plant person before, but it's still that science and that research of there's this problem and we need to figure out how to fix it. And so it still gets all the science nerd brain cells going for me. And so that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. And the extension part of it has a lot to do with outreach. So not only am I coordinating the research that's going on at Lake Gaston, and coordinating the management that's going on at Lake Gaston, but I also have to take that information and disseminate it to the public so that they know what's going on at Lake Gaston. And I have to take the same information, and I can either be in front of a crowd of elementary students, a crowd of retired homeowners, landowners around the lake with various backgrounds, or at a table with a bunch of PhD doctorates, you know, and I have to be able to disseminate that information the same way, just tweak it for my audience. And so that's also been really exciting for me. I enjoy that part of getting that information out there. So what helped me get to where I am today? I would have to say it's the support that I've received, not only from family who's kind of been like, what's Jessica gonna do next? Oh, she's off on a new adventure, and supported me in my entire, you know, life and path on that. Career-wise, it's really been, I have been extremely fortunate to get some amazing mentors in my life. Starting with Dr. Broussard and him helping direct and support me in trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And to this day, I can still call him. I still am in touch with him. He's still supporting me. Dr. Tom Kwok with NC State is the same thing of being there and supporting, and he's a great proponent of, if somebody's in the room and has an achievement, man, he's gonna let everybody know. And he's really good at giving you that pat on the back and support that you need. When I was at the commission, I had a supervisor, Brian McRae, and same thing. All three of them have been there to pat me on my back and support me through the highs in my career. And they've all been there to support me during some of the toughest times in my career. And so I definitely wouldn't be here without all of them somehow affecting and without their support. So I've been very lucky in that aspect.